But you know what? It didn't matter. Because from what I found out about the CS gas and the amount that was poured in there, with the kids not having gas masks because you can't buy a gas mask for a child, their heads are too small, the majority of them would have died from toxic poisoning from the CS gas anyway. They were already dead. It was a front. They were already dead. But by the time they get into the, found the bodies in that cooler, they noticed that some of them had been crushed. Of course, in the FBI report that came out after the ATF report that was basically a whitewash, and the ATF were the scapegoats for what the FBI did. The ATF were responsible for the 5 deaths on the 28th. The FBI were responsible for the 86 deaths of the 18th. Don't let them fool you. When they checked that bunker, they noticed that big chunks of stone had fallen down from the bunker and crushed the women and children, some of them. Approximately 10 of them died of blunt force trauma. At least that's what Dr. Rodney Crowe, who checked the bodies, called it, blunt force trauma. What did the FBI call it to even demonize us more? They said that when we found the bodies of the women and children inside that bunker, they were beaten and stabbed to death. What blatant lies! What incredible deceits! Beaten and stabbed to death, as if the people in Mount Carmel are going to beat their children as one last evil act before they die, before they commit suicide. You've all been deceived. You've all been whitewashed. Since day one, the whole thing stinks of cover-up. The whole thing stinks. And they're not stopping now. They're continuing. What's their policy now? Jan Areno says we need to learn from our mistakes and move on. In other words, Mount Carmel, it's a tragedy. Too bad these people followed this nut. Too bad they took their own lives. But we need to move on now. There's more to it than that. Boy, there's a lot more to it. I hope some of this information comes clear today, that there's a lot more to it. There's going to be quite a number of speakers. Jim Tabor, as I said, and Phil Arnold are going to be here. They're going to speak about Dave's theology a little deeper. I tried not to get into it. I tried to just present some facts today. Facts that myself and Ron Cole and other people that have really put a lot of time into this have uncovered. It's not what you've heard. It's not what you've heard. The people inside Mount Carmel were the greatest people I've ever known. They deserve to be honored. They died for their faith. They were martyred and they were murdered for their faith and what they believed in. Don't let them fool you. This wasn't about weapons. It's a lot bigger. It is a lot bigger than that. One more story I'd like to relate. One more final lie that I feel is needed to come out. So I was listening to Ron Engleman's show, the final day, the day of the raid when they're tear gassing us, sending in these canisters. I was listening to Mr. Engleman, and he was asking us to come out, pleading with us, because he knew that the government wasn't going to give up, that they weren't going to stop, and we knew it too. But we knew one thing. They had promised us the 7-seal manuscript to be written, and we were not going to go out into the hands of them until we had some security, some insurance. So if we were to leave, the building wouldn't meet like an accident like this and burn down, and the truth, we wanted the truth to come out. That was one of the reasons this document was our safeguard. So when they asked us to come out, we didn't. We stayed, as did other communities, as did the Indians at Wounded Knee. They stayed for what they believed in. They ended up dying for what they believed in. But I'm sitting there that morning, and Ron Engleman, he goes to a news brief. He goes to a commercial, and they have a news brief. And I'm sitting there listening to this news brief, and I remember all morning being blown away that here's this tear gas being jettisoned into the complex, and people are reading their Bibles. People are asking God for guidance. People are supplementing themselves unto God at the very last moments. And I hear this report come on saying the FBI is now assaulting the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. And they're sending in tear gas, hoping to get the people out. And the FBI have received 80 to 200 gunshots on their CEVs. And due to the credit of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, they had not fired back. Now when I heard that, my jaw dropped. My heart sank to the bottom of my stomach. And an immediate feeling of foreboding came upon me like I could never describe to any of you, because I could see the writing on the wall. I don't recall hearing one shot that whole morning ever fired at the CEVs. For one thing, the people in there weren't stupid enough to think that a pitiful little .223 round would ever be able to go through a tank unarmored vehicle, armored plated that even 50 caliber weapons wouldn't pierce. No one was that stupid. Number two, we wanted to work it out peacefully, even in the very ending moments. We wanted it to end peacefully. We were hoping for negotiations. So I was amazed at the composure of the people inside there, and it strengthened my faith. But when I heard that report, I saw the writing on the wall. I knew we were condemned. I knew we were dead. I knew they were setting the American public up for a massacre. And that's what they got. They got a massacre. There's the rubble. Julie Martinez should be here. Isaiah and Joseph should be here. Julie's mother's sitting out in the audience. She's been devastated by this. She's one of the most wonderful women I've ever known. Julie's mom. Those kids were the most wonderful kids I've ever known and ever will know. There's no excuse for me not to be with them. I just want to say one more thing. Kind of show you the mentality of where our government's going, where our nation is. About the same time Mount Carmel was happening, there was a siege in Canada taking place. The Canadian government, over a land dispute, went in to take some property from some Indians that hadn't had it legally. And the Indians held their ground. These are Canadian Indians. And this siege lasted for 51 days. I'm sorry, for 71 days, excuse me. And this siege was compared to Waco, Texas. It was a documentary that was comparing the crime in Toronto to the crime in Detroit, two cities that are very close together, only because they're under different governments. They have a totally different outlook on crime and criminal activity. The Canadian government said in this documentary that they waited these people out. They waited 71 days, and they ended it peacefully. And those Indians came out peacefully. And they're still here to live to tell about their story. And the Canadian government said of the American government, we would never, never have done to our people what you all did to your people down there in Waco, Texas. We would never have done it. We would have waited till the last man, woman, and child had come out. Janet Reno, Jeff Jamar, Bob Ricks, Byron Sage, Davey Aguilera, all these spirits that have joined together in their pride and their arrogancy, who would not listen to the psychologists, who would not listen to the theologians, who would listen to no one but themselves out of their own pride and arrogances, got these people killed. Hook, line, and sinker. Pride and arrogancy, the one thing that Scripture warns mankind about over and over again, to have a humble spirit. To be able to listen to other people's views and viewpoints. To be able to have an understanding from professionals as to how to deal with these kind of situations. I hope in the future we deal with these kind of situations in wisdom and not in ignorance and not with a militaristic style mentality that our government has used against its own citizens. We've seen it in Panama, we've seen it in Nicaragua, and now we're seeing it right here on good old American soil. Where are we headed? What are we headed for? I hope we live through this. I hope this doesn't happen to your church. I hope it doesn't happen to you. I'm praying for you. One last thing, there's a new video out. It's by Richard Mosley. I had the opportunity to view it last night with Ron Engleman and a number of the survivors, and it is the most thought-provoking, informative video I've seen yet on Waco, Texas. Unlike certain other people that have put out videos and made thousands and thousands of dollars off this tragedy, he's actually interviewed the survivors, and all the proceeds go to the survivors. The documentary is the most professional thing I've ever seen. It's actually, as I said, interviewed the survivors, and you get a much, much clearer grasp from the other side of what happened truly here at Mount Carmel. He's got a booth over here. His name's Richard Mosley. The video is called Day 51, and it's incredible. I think a lot of you would enjoy it. It's not out yet, but you can get on a mailing list for it, and I think everybody needs to see this video. And I'd like to thank you all for coming out, and write letters. Don't stop. Don't let the pressure off on this government. They want you to forget about it. They want you to go to football games. They want you to go to pizza joints. They want you to watch Beavis and Butthead. They want you to play video games. They want you to have your mind on everything but what happened here at Mount Carmel. We can't allow that to happen. No longer can we be ignorant. No longer can we be stupid. We have to fight fire with fire. We have to fight deceit with truth. Well, I don't have to tell lies. I don't have to get up here and lie. I can tell the truth and damn the government. They have to tell lies to damn us. What's fair? Thank you.